Okay, we are recording.
Okay.
I'll do number one.
Okay.
What is the major difference between choice theory and behaviorism, and what did Glasser call behaviorism? And I said, I took a quote from B.F. Skinner, which was, behavior is a function of its consequences. This means that people have an external locus of control, and that paradigm is completely deterministic. Everything that you do is either to avoid punishment or to get reinforcement. And that can take away any sense of personal responsibility, because it's kind of saying, the biology or the environment is the cause of everything that you do. And so this is, the polar opposite of choice theory, because it emphasizes internal choice or an internal locus of control, which is free will, and says that we are each responsible for our choices. And others can give us information, but we are the only people who pick our behavior.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on. Let me see. The only thing, choice holds humans are internally motivated, like you said. Behaviorism, environmental factors control behavior, and Glasser called behaviorism external control psychology. Okay. Number two, Glasser would not say that someone has OCD. He would instead say they are obsessing. How does this relate to mental illness? And what is Glasser's view on mental illness? He only recognized mental illness when it was pathological, such as like Alzheimer's disease or like a brain injury. He would say that we choose our behavior and we're completely responsible for our feelings, our behavior, and our psychological problems. And that people are more eager to change if they view themselves as responsible for their symptoms. So what he would say about someone who has OCD is that, that they're the ones causing it by thinking about it and then acting on it. And then, that's impacting the way they feel. So they're inflicting the OCD on themselves with the way they think, and then the behaviors that follow, their thoughts or their impulses. So yeah, he would say that they're obsessing. That's the way he looked at it.
Yeah, I said that Glasser's view of mental illness is that it does not exist and that we should focus on mental health instead. He believed that because OCD isn't something that's diagnosed with like a brain scan, that it's not mental illness. He believed people would be able to stop their OCD easier if they felt that they had control over it. And so he felt that by making people fully responsible for their OCD, that would give them more hope that they could have change and that this would be motivating. He didn't want to blame people or scold people. He meant this in a way to really empower them, because he felt it could be helpful to them. Number three, what 4 aspects are included in total behavior? Which of these 4 can you control? Give an example of how changing one of the 2 you can control would impact the other 2. The 4 aspects are acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. We have direct control over our thinking and our acting, and only indirect control over our feeling and physiology. So this was my example. You think that your spouse is trying to annoy you purposefully with something they're doing, but you have the power to change your thought about that to be that your spouse doesn't realize that something that they are doing is getting under your skin. So when you change that thought, this is going to change your actions toward them, because you are going to stop treating them poorly or doing whatever you are doing to retaliate. And then this is going to change the way that you feel around them, because you're going to feel more forgiving once you change your actions towards them and your thought about what they're doing. And eventually this will change your physiology, because you won't be like tensing up every time they do the thing that you thought was intentionally annoying you.
Yes, that was a good example. The example that I have is like, let's say, you're on a diet and you're not supposed to eat sweets. So, if you're constantly giving into these urges, oh, I want a sweet, then then you're, making it's affecting your behavior, and most likely you're going to end up giving in to that. But if you control your thinking and don't obsess over the food that you want as much, and then you're not acting in ways that would lead you to go get that food. So it would change how you feel, and ultimately your body would react differently.
Yeah, that's a great example. I like how you did one that was more, mine is like this, how people are getting annoyed, and yours was completely a totally different route. My son he's trying to go to first not eat sugar because he wants to
Your microphone. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
It's like a little staticky. There you go, now. Okay, you're good.
Okay, so are we on 4 now?
Yes. Okay. Glasser puts forth the principles of a quality world. There are principles from other theories that are very similar to this. Select one of these, state how they are similar and how they are different. I compared Glasser's. He reminded me a lot of the Carl Rogers, the Rogerian theory. They're similar in ways that they both believe that congruence is, what ultimately leads to mental health. That if a person is incongruent with themselves or the way they view the world, that's what leads to unhappiness or mental health issues. They're similar in the way that they both allow the client to lead an interview. They both allow them to tell the story. They're similar that they reflect back to the client what the client said. The way that they're different is that the quality of life, you're working together to understand the happiness and changes, whereas I think Rogers put more emphasis on the client doing all the work than himself. A person-centered theory, client is responsible, not the therapist, and focuses on the subjective view of the world. Whereas in quality of world, it doesn't really focus so much on the subjective view of the world, but focuses more on the relationships that you have with other people. And then Rogerian therapy requires more empathy. While, I believe Glasser empathizes with the client as well, I feel like Rogerian requires more empathy than this one, which is one.
That was a great example. Is my audio still working?
It's like a little staticky, but I can make it out. You're fine. It's good now.
Okay. So I said quality world is similar to Adler's tasks of life. It's similar because the tasks of life involve people also, just like the quality world. Examples are social relationships, love and marriage, and parenting and family.
Mhm.
Quality world has ideas and systems of belief, and the tasks of life have spirituality. So those two go together. But they are different because quality world does not address your work or occupation, but that is very important. It's number one on your tasks of life. Quality world says that if you have fun with somebody, then the image of them will be in your picture of your quality world, but the tasks of life don't talk about fun at all. So
Yeah, that's a good point with the fun, about the fun.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things about Glasser that is really missing from the other theories is a little recreation, a little fun,
Yeah, it's really interesting. Select one of the 10 axioms, state the axiom, explain how following this axiom could help in a committed relationship such as a marriage. So I picked number 6, that we can only satisfy our needs by satisfying the pictures in our quality world. And I said that knowing that each person in a committed relationship has a need to manifest their own quality world could help couples a lot. They could first make sure that they talk really clearly and openly about what are in their quality worlds and make sure that those are compatible before they ever decide to get married.
Mhm.
And they could continue to keep an open dialogue with each other as pictures are changing or coming and going from their quality world. That way, they make sure that they're not getting off track with each other, and also check in with each other that both of their needs are being met, and
Mhm.
that this could alleviate a lot of miscommunication.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good one. For this one, I picked two. I'll start with the one for the marriage. What happened in the past has everything to do with what we are today, but we could only satisfy our basic needs right now and plan to continue satisfying them into the future. I think anyone who's been married or in a relationship long enough, you could, if you want to, bring up things from the past all day long. But like dwelling on those things, is it really serving the relationship? Is it really serving the marriage? Or is it just, polluting it? So I think that, if you love someone, you want to be with them, accept what happened in the past, recognize that that's what led to bringing you guys where you are today, but also don't dwell on it and keep keep it moving forward, keep the progress going. And then the other one that I picked, this isn't just for marriage, but I think it's for all relationships in life, is that the only person whose behavior we can control is our own. Um, you know, I think that every adult is responsible for their own decisions, and that if somebody you love or somebody they care about makes a decision that you don't necessarily agree with, um, I think that the more you go against it and the more you try to change their behavior or what they do, the more you're going to push that person away and the more you're going to stress yourself out. So I think if you accept people for what they are, you know, you have to accept them and you have to be okay with the decisions that they make, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to have to live with the consequences of their decisions, not you. So you shouldn't focus too much about what other people do, and focus about how you react to what you see others doing.
Well put. Yeah. I think that this one thing I did learn from this chapter is I reflect a lot on, am I trying to control other people or tell them what is best for them? And I
Mhm.
think I do a little bit of that. So it gave me some self-work to do.
No, I used to do that a lot too when I was younger, and I still do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think uh, that's not coming from a place of trying to control somebody. I think that's coming from a place of, oh, this worked for me. It could work for you too. It's trying to help somebody, right? So it's like trying to put them on. So yeah, one of the real interesting things about this chapter for me was that, you know, uh, Glasser talks about depression and he puts responsibility on the person for having depression. I think a lot of people have a misconception of like depression or sadness or anxiety. Yeah, I like to think of it like, if you put your hand over a stove and it burns, you know, that's your body telling you there's something not right. You need to move it away. So it's like if a person's depressed or if a person's feeling, sad or anxiety or whatever, they're feeling it for a reason. It's their body telling them something's not right. You need to change something, right? So it's like if these are signals that tell our bodies, if we're doing something that's right or wrong to keep us safe, then they're working as their function. Their function is working, just like how you feel pain. If I feel depressed because I'm not taking care of myself or I'm not doing something right, that's a signal for me to change something in my life. And Glasser just reinstated that point with me again, as that um, people are responsible to a certain degree. When it comes to mental illness, it's not really as cut clear as like broken bone or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
gave me something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. That, I was thinking about the authors of this textbook, and if there's only 14 chapters and this is one of them, then this is clearly like an important and influential thing that has happened in this field. So I've tried to be more generous than I want to be, because I have a little bit of an aversion of this to this idea that there's no such thing as mental illness.
And I think that's what makes psychology so great is that, you know, people don't agree with every view. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes it so great is that it can be interpreted in so many different ways. And I like this book a lot because it doesn't just focus on one point of view. It tells you, look, these are all the different point of views. You know, like you could
Yep.
pick one, or you could take a little bit here, a little bit there, and make your own. So yeah, I think it's super interesting having all these thoughts because, you know, people have you know, such their own made up idea of what therapy is or what it should be. And then, like, you know, you get into it, you see all these different dynamics to it. It's pretty interesting.
Mhm. I think we covered everything. Do you think we're good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Stop the recording.